go, Shutter here. Now, if you saw a while back, I actually made a small video where I basically ranked the first 10 levels of every campaign. This time, I'm going to do the inverse. I'm ranking the first 20 levels. Now, I'm going to be ranking from level 11 to level 20, taking some of the old stuff into advice, but mostly the levels from level, from level 11 all the way up to level 20. And more or less, trying to justify my reasoning for this, for why, these levels are the way they are. Obviously, of course, just basically looking at some of this stuff and just basically saying, how good they are. And honestly, some of these factions are, almost all of these factions are pretty good. But on some, this is slightly better stuff, than other factions at level 20. Obviously, some factions have it are more blessed than others. Some factions, get some pretty powerful gear. And other factions just don't get anything until way later in their campaign. Now, there are going to be a few surprises here and there, and you will be shocked at some of the placements of some of these campaigns. So, yeah, let us begin with what I think is the absolute weakest of all of the, from level 11 all the way up to level 20. And go away. Also, with Stalingrad, I will be including the paid levels in this. Otherwise, Stalingrad would probably be dead bottom. So I'm going to have to go with the paid levels with Stalingrad for both of these. Anyways, let us begin with what I think is the weakest faction. Coming in at dead last, obviously excluding Stalingrad without paying, is Axis Moscow. Now, I've been playing a lot of Axis Moscow recently, but I can see that the gaps in these levels are too big to ignore. Now, first off, really, let's have a look at this. First, MP40 really isn't, and the Panzer III aren't really big upgrades. Same as ZB26, Mortar, BF 109, pre-war car 98k. Really, the first good sizable unlock is the car 98k with the Schiesbecker here, which is and then you get the Flammenwerfer at level 18, the BF 110, I guess. And then the MG34. So it's really top heavy. It's very top heavy. I mean, even the Flammenwerfer is not the best. Like, the level 1 flamethrowers aren't the best. But it's very top heavy. MP40 really is pretty much done in by the MP38. And I know for a fact it is, because I've used both of them. And yeah, the MP40 performs better than the MP38. But the MP38 is cheaper. And the difference is it's minuscule between the two. Obviously, of course, if you have MP40s on other campaigns, you can transfer them over, but yeah. Panzer III, not really worth it. ZB26, is pretty much just the MG13 again, only 3 levels later. And it's more expensive. Glanzwerfer, not really worth it. BF 109, it's a 109. The pre-war car, there's going to be a video on this, let's just say that. The car 98k with the, like I said, the car 98k with the Schiesbecker is the first big unlock, which is level 17. And you'll see, and then after that is the MG34, so only 2 real levels, maybe 3 if you count the BF 110, which... It's a heavy fighter with bombs, so maybe. I would say this one is a maybe, but, would you say it over something I'd probably rather prefer something like the BF 110 from Normandy, to be honest. So yeah, not really much levels going in, just really a MG34 and a Kar 98k with the grenade launcher, which, if you see... You'll see a lot later, is a lot, compared to the other side, it's a bit of a, big bird on the campaign. Anyways, let's move on. Taking their traditional spot as near the bottom, it is Axis Tunisia. Now, what do you expect? It's Axis Tunisia. I mean, it has some decent stuff. It's got the Spaghetti Carcano, whatever it is. Whatever this gun is. The... whatever. Spaghetti gun. It's got a Stuka, which... it's a Stuka. MP40, but I would say... same reason for the MP38. The Beretta M1 is better. And that's about it. The tank here isn't that good. You got the ZB29, which is actually an upgrade to the Breda, and you do get the shooting cup, so yeah, tiny mild improvements here and there. So difference being is, again, kind of the same as the Axis in Berlin, not Berlin, in Moscow, but with the slight difference of there's actually stuff at the beginning with the Stuka and the spaghetti gun here, whatever it's called, that are good. You also get a Fokker Wolf, which they're fine. And then you get, you know, the ZB-26, which is your first machine gun at level 19. And then you get the Kar 98K with the Schiesbecker. So, not bad. Not bad. The only real problem is, again, just how much crap is in between it. Like, you've got mortars, which are, obviously, of course, the most useless class in the game. The MP40, which is outclassed by the Beretta M1. You got the pre-war car, which is the pre-war car. You got the Fokker Wolf here, which, I mean, that's fine. You got the first Flamethrower squad, which I say these are much better much earlier in the campaign. Like, Normandy had it best when they were like level 6 or 7. This tank, it's good at taking out vehicles, but that's it. It's kind of like, it's basically the Italian version of the M10, only worse. But yeah, tank destroyers in this game aren't that good, so, yeah. Other than that, you know, you've got the ZB-26, which is fine, but, and you also got the Schiesbecker. The only reason I point out the ZB-26 is because Italians are cursed with, where is it? Yeah, this. They're cursed with this. You know how much I hate this thing. If you know my channel, you know how much I really do not like the Breda Model 30. So yeah. Coming in at number 8 is Moscow Soviets. Now, Moscow Soviets don't actually have too much, but when they like the Axis in what's it? Like the Axis, they don't have much, but when they do, they just basically get really good. Now, I think it's easy to look at the bad first. The RM, the AG, maybe, the Flamethrower again, the PE3. But then you look at the good stuff in between them, and there's just so many good stuff. You've got the PPD-40 with the drum, which is really good. You've got the Bias Tank 7, or the BT-7. You've got the Winchester, which many people say it's the best, you know, the best non-semi-auto weapon in the game. Honestly, I do prefer the number 4 to it. It's still great. You also get the Sniper SVT, which is the first semi-auto you unlock in Moscow, so really good. Really good early semi-auto. Rifle grenades, which are broken now. And it caps off with the DP-27, which is a pretty good LMG. So, not many bad stuff, but nothing really stand out other than the SVT, the Sniper SVT. And even then, I'm hesitant to say it's a big standout because it's only for snipers. So yeah, nothing really big, but nothing. Oh, there's also, of course, the drum, which, yeah, I forgot to mention the drum. Really good. Honestly, I think those two just kind of just bring it above the rest. But the problem is, nothing outside of those really matters. Coming in at number 7 is Axis Stalingrad. Now, obviously, Stalingrad is by far the most overpowered campaign because of those cancerous bombing runs. But this faction has some good stuff going for it. Now, main thing is, of course, we'll go from the bottom. First, MG34 off the bat. Really good LMG. One of the best in the game. You get the F2, which is fine. I mean, the F2 it's a Panzer IV at the end of the day, so... Schiesbecker, which is pretty good. Then you get the ZH-29, which is another pretty decent semi-auto. MP-40, meh. I think this is the Romanian plane, meh. Pre-war Car 98K, definitely no. MG-34, not 34, MG-42 though, like this is the main thing that really put, and also Flammenwerfer 41. Now, those are the main things that put this so high up, you know, higher than the others. It's again very heavy on the levels, like, and obviously, of course, if you're not paying, then I would say this would be a little bit lower because you won't get the MG-30, the MG-42. You won't get this plane. Who cares? You won't get the ZH-29, and you won't get the mortar. Who cares? I would probably say this would probably be about level, probably about 8th if it was free. So ahead of the other two Axis I've already mentioned, but not ahead of Moscow. That being said, it's still pretty good, and it's honestly quite an interesting faction. You've got the Kar 98K with the Schiesbecker again, which obviously, of course, are broken. You got the MG-42. You got the Flammenwerfer 41, which is pretty good. So yeah, pretty good, but just nothing huge. And you'll see what I mean later on. Coming in at number 6 is Axis Berlin. Now, as you can tell, like I said, some factions, you know, were really top, you know, they had really good stuff, and that's why they were ahead of the other factions. And Axis Berlin is the antithesis of this. When they excel with their levels in this part of the campaign, they excel. You got the Panther. You got the MP-35, you got the Kar 98K with the Schiesbecker, you got the MG-42. But other than those four, which are huge standouts, you don't get much, unfortunately. You get a mortar, who no one cares about. You get the pre-war Kar 98K, which, again, pre-war Kar 98K is not that good. You get the another BF-109, because... I guess. You get the Flammenwerfer, which is again the low Flammenwerfer, and you also get the ME-410 and the Volkssturmgewehr. And yeah, the 410's alright, but this one's not as good as its Normandy counterpart, in my opinion. From the looks of things, it doesn't look as good because rockets beat bombs. Yeah. Other than that, it's fine, I guess. And yeah, it's just fine. That's the problem. It's just fine. It's not anything bad, but it's not anything good. Anyways, let's move on to the next campaign. Coming in at number 5 is actually the British in Tunisia. Now, I know what many people will say. Tunisia this high up, really? Well, if you look at what they actually get quite a bit. Now, they get the SBD-3, which is a pretty good plane. Like you can see, a £1,000 bomb. Like, come on, that is insane. They also get the M1A1 Thompson. They get Spitfire. They get the Grant, the Bren, and they get the number 3 with the rifle grenades. Not really much to say, which is bad about them. The only real problem is flamethrower again because too high. The A4, which is still to this day remaining the most confusing weapon in the game. Seriously, why is it not at the start of the campaign? And, you know, the carbine and the mortar, well, you know, because the carbine's not that good, and the mortar, yeah, it's a mortar. What do you expect? You can't really do anything good about it. The only real thing which I would say, you know, you look at it and go, you know, this thing's actually questionably bad, of course, being the mortar, is obviously the carbine and maybe the Springfield, but other than that, you've actually got quite a solid thing. You've got Spitfires, obviously, which are Spitfires. You can't go wrong with a Spitfire. But you've also got stuff like the Grant, which is a vehicle which many people consider to be overpowered. And you've also got the Breton, which is a pretty good LMG, and of course you've got the rifle grenades at level 20. Anyway, let's move on to number 4. Coming in at number 4 is the Axis in Normandy. Now, I know the Axis in Normandy, you know, obviously this is the highest ranked Axis faction. It's my favourite faction as well. But really, I think these have the most consistent upgrades out of anything. Now, the only levels you can actually say which are bad are the first 3. Where you get the Braden Bedell 30, the BF 109, and the Grant Werfer 36. After that, you get good level after good level after good level. Now, they've just... Now, obviously, you know, some other factions you might say, oh, but they've got better stuff unlocked. So even Tunisia, allies have strategically better unlocks than Normandy Axis. The problem is that they've got, you know, some filler levels in between. For Normandy Axis, they get good level after good level after good level after good level. Like, look at this. You get first you get the Sniper Gewehr 43, then the Panzer IV-J, then the Beretta M1918, which is okay. You know, it's probably the weakest out of all of them. Then you get the Schischbecker, then you get the Junker 188, then you get the MG34, and then you get the Panzer IV-H at the end. Like, and honestly, you know, some of these, especially stuff like the MG34, Panzer IV-H, even the Panzer IV-J, and the Sniper Gewehr, you know, they're really good upgrades. Even the Junker 188 is really good because it can take out pretty much any allied tank quite easily. The only downsides really are the starting 3 unlocks, because the Brader's awful, and everyone knows it. The BF 109 is questionable, and the Grant Werfer is mortars. Other than that, it's good. You know, it's just good stuff. Like, look, like, you get the Panzer IV-H, which is really good. You get the MG34, which is a 10 out of 10 weapon. You get the Panzer IV-J, which is pretty good. The Sniper Gewehr, which is pretty good. Yeah, it's just good. Like, these are just some good unlocks. Anyways, let's move on to number 3. Coming in at number 3 is actually the flip. It's actually Allies Normandy. Now, honestly, Allies Normandy and Axis Normandy, on paper, Axis Normandy is better in terms of how consistent its loadout is, and in terms of like the tier of unlocks, because Allies Normandy gets 2 of their worst weapons during this, as well as the 2-inch mortar, and they get the P-51, which is okay, I guess, but it's nowhere near as good as their initial aircraft. So they get less good stuff. But the thing is, they get some incredibly powerful stuff in this line. You get the Bren. Immediately, let's start off. We got the Bren, which is, yeah, it's their weakest LMG, but the Bren's still good. It's still a good LMG, and it's consistently powerful. After that, you've got the Sherman here, which is really good. It's a pretty good vehicle. Not as good as the Panzer IV-J, in my opinion, but it's still solid. It's still a solid vehicle. Rifle grenade, and obviously I would say the carbine with the grenades are, in my opinion, better than the Axis ones. Still pretty solid. I mean, it's still probably the same thing. A20, which is pretty much the exact same as the 188. I think it's got some defenses, and that's real. That's the real thing. It's got defenses, which the 188 doesn't have unless you've got squads on it. Then you also have the M1918, so the BAR. Really powerful weapon, one of my favourites. But the main thing which is keeping this up number 3, because originally this was going to be number 5, it's the Jumbo, okay? The Jumbo is by far one of the most powerful vehicles in the game. Axis really don't have much of an answer to it. Like, I know I kill Jumbos a lot, because it's easy to kill Jumbos, especially Jumbo players who are kind of stupid. But the thing is with the Jumbo is that it is easy to kill people with on the Jumbo, but the Jumbo has its weaknesses, which is kind of the Jumbo with a carry, especially carrying it much higher than it than this K should be. But still, it's really good, and it's, in my opinion, deserving. No, the Jumbo alone is deserving of the number 3 spot in its own. Combine it with the, the other stuff which you get, it's an easy number 3. In at number 2 is got to be Stalingrad Soviets. Now, Stalingrad Soviets, again, lots of stuff going for them. You got the DP-27 immediately, really good. Then you get the KV-1. And then you get the rifle grenades, SVT-40, PPS-42, Sniper SVT, and then to round it off, the DT-29 and the Mark II flamethrower. So this is the Mark II version, which is pretty good. So you have you've got so many good stuff here. And again, think of it like, basically, combined, to put it into perspective, it's basically what happens when you get Axis Normandy, and then give it the Jumbo, basically, and then have, like, in the middle of it, have a Jumbo, or a tank equivalent to the Jumbo. That's what it is. The KV-1 I meant, is really good. It's a very strong vehicle. And then you've got stuff like, the PPS-42, you've got the AVT, you've got the Mosin with the grenade launcher, you've got the Sniper AVT, you've got the DT-29, which is, by the way, the cheapest. This is actually the cheapest way you can get the DT-29. Of course, you do have to pay, but I digress. You've got the DP-27, not as good as it, not like in Berlin, where you basically get it immediately, you can transfer them over for no cost, really. But still pretty good, and you also end up with a really good flamethrower. So yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say it, even without the pay option, this would still be quite high. This would probably be at number 5 without the paid option, and it's at number 2 with paying. However, there was a faction that had to be number 1. It just had to be number 1. It's so good, it has to be number 1. Anyways, and if you can see the video, how it's progressing, you'll know exactly what faction that is, and what faction number 1, let's just talk about number 1 right now. You knew this had to be number 1 just by clicking on the video. Just, Soviets in Berlin are on another level. I've said these are one of the most powerful campaigns, and honestly, just, like, I'm just going to say it. The original, in my original video, I put them at number 1 as the best, early game faction. Right? And I said it was because they were very well rounded. They've got good tanks really early. They've got strong rifles. And they have exceptional SMGs and mid-ish vehicles. So, what does level 11 to level 20 give you? It gives you a better tank. It gives you a semi-automatic sniper rifle, which the other faction doesn't have. It gives you not 1, but 2 SMG replacements, which are better than the original 2 SMGs. This gives you 2 10 out of 10 SMGs. The PPS H41 with the box is incredible. And the PPD with the box, with the drum, is really good. It's one of my favourite SMGs so far in the game. Right? And the PPS H41 is also one of my favourites. Like, I said originally that the PPS, the PPS at 42 and 43 were 9 out of 10. These are 10 out of 10 weapons. On top of this, Mosin grenades. You've got the only downside is these 2. You get the Yak 3, which is, fine, I guess. And you get the bad flamethrowers. But, you also get, after that, you get the DPM, the IL-2, which is, in my opinion, one of the best aircraft in the game, and the PPD-40. Like, the IL-2 Type 3 is actually really good. The DPM is actually just, I would say, it's actually better than the DP-27. So, you've got an upgrade, and you get the PPD-40 at the end. So, basically, it just so you get one of the best vehicles, one of the best tanks in the game. You get two of the best SMGs in the game. You get a really good LMG. You get a pretty good bomber, and you get some other pretty decent stuff scattered throughout, like 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 the sniper SVT and the Mosin if you're into those. There's a lot to love about this campaign, and that's easily why it is number one. Honestly, I mean, if you've been watching the series so far, you've been seeing that, the Soviets have it all in Berlin. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you guys think? What's the strongest campaign from level 11 to 20? I'll probably do a one from level 21 all the way up to max level soon enough, which will be a lot more fun. And hopefully this time the Soviets in Berlin will not be at the top this time. I mean, we'll have to see when I make the video, when I start taking down notes. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.